Howdy y'all, Mookalax Lives. I think it's time to play a little 7 Days to Die. Alright. It has been a long day. Okay, I think we'll head that way today. So oh right, I need shale. I think we'll head that way today. I probably should have stayed but there and got the gas that I put in to cook. Yeah, so we were playing Final Fantasy last night, and we got done about 12-ish, and come on, game load. And so I start putting my stuff, away for the evening, getting ready to go crawl in bed, and I'm like, huh, I haven't heard my sump pump go off in a while. I listened for it because this one time, actually a couple of times now, the float switch has gone bad, and um, so the one time it went bad, and I I didn't think anything of it because it will it doesn't always run a lot. Like sometimes it won't run at all, and so during the summer it might not turn on for a couple of days, and so we'd reach one of those points in the summertime where it just didn't come on, and I didn't think anything of it, and so I got out of my chair and stepped down, and the floor was wet, and I thought, oh man, I've knocked over somebody's water. And then I realized that every step I'm taking is wet floor because I'm in the basement. And yeah, there's standing water in the hallway and in the room with the sump. And so I get it started. It drains all the water out like it's supposed to. And then we spend like the next 4 or 5 days using a rug doctor thing, a carpet cleaner, to suck all the water out of the floor so that we don't have to tear up the floor. Yeah, so I've gotten in the habit of listening for the sump, and so when I don't hear it for a day, I go and I check on it. And so that's what happened last night. I'm like, I haven't heard the sump since this morning. And we are definitely not in the dry part of the year. It's spring. We've got snow and rain and stuff like that. And so I go in there, and sure enough, it's not working. And I'm like, huh, neither is my backup. It's also not working. And so I fiddle with it, try to get it to work. I unplug the switch and just plug the pump directly into the plug. So the pump runs on what's called a float switch. It literally just floats in the water, and then when it gets full, the float lifts up so that it's vertical-ish, and when it's vertical, the part inside the float switch slides down and completes the circuit, and the pump comes on, and then it stays on for, I don't know, however long it stays on, and drains the water. And so so that plugs into the wall, and then whatever you want to turn on when the water is full plugs into that. And so you can unplug the switch and plug the pump directly in. So that's what I did. And no, it's not doing anything. So I'm like, oh crap. Like this could flood. This could flood the basement. And so for like the next hour, I go around unplugging things and like picking up my battery backups and moving them in on top of chairs. Picking up my stack of board games and putting them up on the table, and move the couch so I could unplug the power strip. I've got a power strip in the middle of the couch, so that when people need to plug in their phones and stuff, they can just pull it up from underneath the couch and plug it in. So I had to unplug that, and the TVs and the refrigerator and all that stuff. And I'm not exactly sure where to go out here to is this shale? This looks like iron. Yep. The XP was confusing me. Alright, so we need to find... Shale is shiny, right? Like kind of a rainbow hued. I don't usually dig up shale, so... Like that shale, right? Oh. I didn't bring my yucca juice. Oh, no, just keep digging. So, yeah, so then, of course, I'm like, crap, So I look up the pump guy who lives in the area. And of course they don't open till 8 a.m. and it's like 1:30 in the morning. And I'm like, man, I was pretty sure they had an emergency number, but I can't find it anywhere. And so I couldn't sleep. Just like every hour I would wake up and I'm checking the floors and then lay back down and try to sleep. And then I'd just be like, nope, gotta check the floors again. Not that I guess there was really a whole lot I could do. I mean, I guess I could have got a bucket and scoop the water out, but man, that'd have been awful. And so luckily for me, the water didn't really go any higher. Oh, go any higher than it was. Why you bite me, coyote? Whoa, coyote. Coyote, what happened to your head, coyote? What happened to your head? It looks so weird. So yeah, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and then this morning I get up and well, I texted my sister. I'm like, hey, don't. So okay, you live in a house and it's not exactly. I mean, maybe you don't live in a house, but I live in a house, and my previous house was a 100-plus-year-old farmhouse, and so there's weird quirks. This house is not as old, but also has some weird quirks. The old house that I lived in, we did not have a sump in the basement. It did not flood. I think it flooded one time that wasn't a plumbing issue. Like I remember there was a plumbing issue one time and the basement flooded, but there was only one time where it was a weather-related issue in the, I don't know, 30 years I lived in that house. So, yeah, how much have I got? I guess I got quite a bit here. I think you get a bunch for it. So I'm gonna finish digging this block here and head out here because I'm not equipped to be in the desert. Come on. There you go. All right. So, the sump here runs all the time. Like I said, like at least it's rare for it not to run at least once or twice a day. And the more rain there is, the more often it runs. And so it rained today, and I checked the weather, and I knew it was going to rain today. And so at 8, I call the guy as soon as he opens. And every time, like, it's the only place I could find that said it did pumps. It's the pump repair, is, you know. And I'm like, dude, I kind of got an emergency here. My crock is full, and my sump pump isn't working. And he's like, what? I'm like, my sump pump isn't working. And he's like, well, I mean, I'm like, yeah, and I'm worried that it's going to overflow and flood the basement when it rains later today. And he's like, well, is it overflowed right now? I'm like, no. He's like, well, then it won't. I'm like, what do you mean it won't? You don't live here. You don't know what this acts like. How can you make that judgment? So he says, well, we already got some things scheduled. We're supposed to put a tank in, and somebody doesn't have any water. Now, I know, not that it worked out this way, but I know it's pretty simple to put in a sump pump. I just didn't have one, and I didn't really want to do it anyways. I wanted a professional to do it, right? Because they would know which one to get and all that stuff, and I wouldn't have to run to the store and, you know. And so he's like, yeah, no, we're already scheduled, so the earliest we can come out is in the afternoon. And I'm like, but like, I don't want the basement to flood. And he's like, well, I guess you could call somebody else who does this kind of work if you can't wait for the afternoon. I'm like, okay, well, who would you call then? He's like, well, I don't know that. I don't think anybody around here does that kind of work. Like, we're the only people that keep sump pumps in stock. I'm sure that's not necessarily true. But you could call around and find somebody. And I'm like, well, fine, just schedule me for this afternoon then. And luckily, it didn't overflow. But man, that dude was grouchy when I was talking to him, and then when he got here, he was awful to talk to. He just constantly complained about the sit-up. I'm like, dude, it was like that when I moved in. I told him that right off the bat. He's like, why do you have this sit up this way? I'm like, I don't know. It was like this when I moved in. And there's a support board up by the ceiling, and he didn't like that. And then there were 2 pipes because there was a main sump and a backup sump, and he didn't like that. And one of them had a rubber, I don't know what it's called. I called it a boot, connecting the 2 pipes. It was a check valve. It's got a rubber check valve on it. Is actually what it's got, and he didn't like that. He prefers the plastic kind. He didn't know anybody would want to use it. And then he didn't like where I had positioned the sensor. He didn't like. I'm just like, dude, just fix my pump. And I don't understand what took them so long, because it was simply a matter of put the new pump on a pipe, stick it in there, see how much you have to cut off, cut it off, connect the pipe. And somehow that took them an hour. I would not say they were very professional. they definitely did not follow the rules that, oh wow. Oh, 4,800 gas, okay. I was like, wow, that's not really as much gas as I thought I was going to get out of this thing. But, oh yeah, I definitely got plenty of gas there. Okay, I'm waiting for this to get to 1,000 so I can... you know what, 710 is good here. So, so yeah, they got it all hooked up, and then uh, he's like, why is this other sump not plugged in? I'm like, well, because when I came in to check it last night, neither one of them was working, and all the lights were red on the battery backup one, and so it clearly was not working, so I unplugged it. And he's like, well, yeah, it's not going to work if it's unplugged. That's not what I said, is it? That's not what I said. And there's not a lot of time left in this day. I don't know. Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt to just, whoops, leap off my bike. It doesn't hurt to drive back, so, in the dark, I mean. So, yeah, it was such a long day. On the plus side, I'm done with work for today, and I normally don't get done till midnight or 1 a.m. on Mondays. But I also got up hours earlier than I normally do and didn't sleep well last night, so I don't know if it was a good trade-off. But, yeah. So the new pump, he took out my battery backup pump, did not put it back in. He took the board down, and said he did not talk to me about these things. I heard him talking to the other guy that was with him, and the other guy was like, you want me to put that board back in? He's like, let them worry about it. I'm like, why is it that every time I call you pump people, why do they gotta act like that? Are they all like that? We had some problem with our well, and you know, I'll admit I'm not a well person. I don't know necessarily how to fix a well. But you know what I do know how to do is Google. And so we were having a problem where we'd have water and then we wouldn't have water. And so I Google the symptoms and I read through the various scenarios that could be causing this to happen. And one of them clearly matches our symptoms. And that is that I don't remember what they're called. It's been a long time since this happened. But clearly matches the symptoms of a valve at the bottom of the well, like all the way at the bottom, having gone bad, which apparently they do. And so I am explaining to the guy what symptoms we're having, and his first response, it's always their first response, your well's not deep enough. And now we have a sump that runs multiple times a day, which means that water is seeping into the crock from the ground, which means that while you might use more water than your well has, I'm at the surface and the well is over 100 feet into the ground, so I'm gonna guess that we didn't get muddy water. I have lived in a house where the well went dry. We didn't get sucking in air. We didn't get any of that. What we got was sometimes there'd be water, sometimes there wouldn't. Um, and so I'm like, yeah, from my understanding, it sounds like it's the valve at the bottom of the well. And he's like, nah, that doesn't happen. He's like, your well has just gone dry. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring out my excavation equipment, and we're gonna pull your well. Um, so well is a weird thing, uh, and it's like the one we have is like a big pipe goes way down in the ground, and then there's a pump on it, and so the valve is at the bottom of that pipe, the one that Google said was probably the issue. So he's like, yeah, your well's probably only about 60 foot deep, and it'd be better if it was 120 foot. And that's your problem, is you're too high up in the water table. Now this dude has never worked on our well before, and he I want to say it's even the same guys that I brought out today, honestly. Not the same guy, but the same company, because it's like the only company. There's like two heating places, one well slash pump place, right? And so uh, they pull the well out, and would you believe that our well was 120 feet into the ground already? And that he didn't get to drill anything because it was deeper than 120 feet. He shoved it down in there and it just kept going and going until he reached the end of the 120 feet of pipe. And he was surprised. And you know what it turned out to be? The valve at the bottom. So I don't understand why they're so adamant that. Oh, I wanted to mark this. That it is not what I suggest it is every time. They're always so mean about it too. I should definitely put down a bedroll here. That guy also asked what I did for a living, and I told him that I worked from home as a data analyst, and and he's like, "Oh, you're one of those people that sits in front of a computer." I'm like, "Yeah," and did I not put that down? I felt I'd put that down. Do I have two of them? What is happening here? Did I make two? I didn't mean to make two. Yeah, I definitely put one down. Weird. I must have already had one on my hotbar and didn't realize it. Um, and I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, that's where the data analyzing takes place, is at the computer. And he's like, you know that it's guys like me that keeps guys like you sitting in the comfy, air-conditioned offices that you're in, right? Like, what does that even mean? Why would you talk to a customer like that? I have taught customer service. That is not how you should act towards your customers, people. The only reason you can get away with it is because you're the only people in the area that does this kind of work. Paper. 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 Really? Paper. More paper. Something I already know. But I'll take it for the XP. More paper. More paper. Okay. Upstairs we go. Oh, here's something new. Wood splitter mod. Oh, cool. I already have one of those on my axe, but knowing how to make it's nice. But yeah, it just amazes me how rude they are. If you don't like the work, then why are you doing it? Seriously, the dude who came out to work on my pump today is the owner of the business. The owner was rude to me. And I still don't understand how it took them an hour to do what they did. All they did was took out the old pipe, or the old pump, the backup pump, cut a pipe, to reach the length from the check valve on the old pipe to the new pump, because they didn't put new pipe in except for the piece they cut to make it fit, because why would you? The old pipe's already there and it's still good. And yeah, it was just, why did it take you an hour? I've done the same thing and I'm not trained in it in less time. Hunting rifle. I think we scrap that. Because I did put in one of the pumps myself. It didn't work now. That also cracked me up. So they're like, how old is your backup pump? I'm like, I'm pretty sure I put it in a little over 5 years or so ago. And they're like, yep, it you definitely didn't get it put in there right, because it should have lasted way longer than that. And then before he goes, you know what he says to me? So the new pump that you put in today, I'd suggest that about every 8 years you replace it so that you don't run into the problem you had this time. Okay. So I put in something I bought off of the internet, hoping that maybe it would be beneficial. It did work. The last time I checked it, it just did not work this time. And now you're telling me that after a few years they go bad anyways, but mine is the one that you have to make comments about after telling me that the new one you just put in, I'm going to have to replace it in slightly more time than the one that I put in. Yes. Yep. But now the new pump's in, and hopefully it works good. It's already not working like he said it was going to. Seriously. Here's another thing. So quirks. I was talking about quirks, and I didn't finish my quirk story. Um, so one of the things that happens here is that our old house was on a. You know what? Our old house is weird, and it was on a root cellar, I guess. Like they call them Michigan basements here in Michigan. Uh, and it was like a stone, like big stones cemented together, just for part of the house, and then the rest of the house was on sand. I mean, I'm sure like pillars in the sand. I don't know. I didn't dig any out. But anyways, so this new house doesn't have a cement foundation like I'm used to basements being. So I think it's built on cement foundations around the uh, main supports, and then the rest of the floor is just wood joists and wood flooring, which is why the water seeps in if the sump isn't running. But our septic tank is only about 50. Our septic field is probably about 100 feet from where that crock is. And so I have noticed that when we do things that use a lot of water, like many loads of laundry, that the sump runs more. And so I left them a note upstairs and I said, hey, try and keep the water usage down until they get the pump fixed. And so I just, because they had a large amount of clothes, it looked like they were planning on washing. Or they're just going to leave them in the hallway in the way for a couple more weeks, whatever. And so I just didn't want them to run the wash machine and, you know, have all that water start to seep back toward the crock that wasn't being emptied. And so my brother-in-law mentions that to one of those pump guys, and then they proceed to tell him that that is not how it works. And the pump guy also did not understand what was going on, and he says, the guy up there just said that he wasn't doing the dishes. I'm like, that guy up there isn't doing the dishes because he doesn't like to do the dishes, and he is using this as an excuse not to do it, and then acting like if it wasn't for the sump not working, he would be doing the dishes. But let's be honest, if the sump was working, he wouldn't be doing the dishes. So he's just trying to make himself look better, and so he's like, their sink doesn't run into this, does it? And I'm like, no, it doesn't, but the water seeps over sometimes when the ground is saturated. I know because I've lived here for 11 years. I know. I've lived here. And then they're like, no, the water doesn't work that way. I'm like, yeah, it certainly does. You don't live here. You don't know how the house is put together. You don't know what the yard is like. You don't know anything about this place. You didn't build it. You're already. I didn't build it either. But you're complaining about how they put the old sump pump system in. Obviously, it's not going to work the way you think it's going to work. Why you got to be so angry about it? I don't understand. It's okay. But they were very well, not both of them, just the owner was very, very rude and angry, I felt. Both of them had to explain to me how to use a cord as well, which I thought was weird. Both of them were like, so you can just pull this cord out if you want to. I gotta remember I have changed my stuff around here. So I gotta be careful where I put this stuffs. But yeah, so that was my day today. It was long. It was really long. And tiring. And I am tired now. I think the guys want to play Final Fantasy tonight too. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I might just have to go crawling to bed though. Oh, it's still a bit early. But with that, I'm going to call it a day. So be better in the small things. Lean in the light. And I will talk to you later.